Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Related.
So, I mean, our team works very well together, and yet I know we have our moments. Um, do you recognize some of your traits and characteristics in the other person?
Well, first off, what's really interesting is we are in fact related. And he is my brother's son, who my brother and I are not at all alike when it comes to this at all. Like, Rick and I, his dad and I are like night and day when it comes to this type of what we do and how our lives and all of that are. Where then you, the next generation, are very similar in a lot of respects to me, as opposed to similar to your dad.
Oh, well, I mean, my dad is, he's a salesman, and like any customer who's met me knows I try not to sell you anything.
Yeah, so there's that, but yeah, very, very different. And I see an awful lot of traits of mine in him, whether they're inherent to who he is because he's bloodline, or is it skills that have been learned through watching, through understanding the way I process things, and you've shown a lot of the skills and done a lot of things that I would have done as well.
Well, we also, like you said, about being thrown on the service end and going through all your stuff. I mean, I pretty much same thing.
Did the same thing, yeah. Well, to the point where we've never even mentioned or talked about this before, but I've always been kind of a learner. I always wanted to learn more. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to be prepared. I was the guy way back in the day when all these other young kids that were my age were working, just wanted to party and have fun. I was the one going to the office, unbeknownst to the owner, and taking all the pool magazines I could find and taking them home and reading them. And finding pictures and tearing them out and kind of going over that because I wanted to learn. Well, maybe it wasn't magazines and things for you, but how many? Google. Yes, but how many times have we heard about? Well, yeah, I'm actually certified in this class because I took this class online. And I did this and I did that and all these different trainings. It's kind of that cut from the same mold thing. Is that you've went and got additional training that we haven't, as a company, haven't asked you to do, or even known that you were doing. You went because it was something that you felt would further you, make you better at something, help you, and as a matter of fact, help us because our company gets better when education happens. And that's something that, again, I think a huge percentage of employers in our country neglect is education. Help keep your people growing. We didn't have to do that for you. You went out on your own and did it. And that's how you're really similar to me. Was I was the one. I remember a goofy story. I remember reading an article in a magazine. We're talking 30 years ago now. And it was a story about how somebody had turned a gunite pool into a vinyl liner pool. And I was in awe and amazed by it because at that point I knew the difference of construction and I could, in my mind, couldn't figure how to do it. And I asked the previous owner about it, and he had like, there was no interest. Like, he didn't care. And yet, I'm sure he ran across cases where had he had that skill, he would have been able to help people out and convert a gunite pool to a vinyl pool. But to me, it was just amazing that I could read these articles and read about how people were doing stuff, and yet no one around me cared. He didn't care. His interest was just doing his niche.
Oh, yeah.
And so education didn't matter, but I realized how important education is for me, and you obviously have proven that for
sure.
you as well.
I mean, as far as, especially so like on the service end, even going, to the different brand classes and stuff and what they're introducing and stuff all the time, where there's stuff that I may not see, but at the same time, okay, when we run a brand like we do, people do come to us. But on top of that, it's just so, like when we started running Jandy equipment, trying it out and whatnot, like my whole reason for wanting to do it was just to experience it, just to learn it, see how it works, everything else, especially anyone has a question or I come across it on the service end, I want to see how everything went together and just how it worked. And on top of that, it's a matter of, the whole idea of nothing grows in your comfort zone. The same thing of like why we do the type of pools and stuff we do is if we did the same thing over and over, I mean, just like you mentioned, the previous owner, like all he was about volume, and he got in and out, and he had to get out, otherwise he would have died because he had heart problems and stress issues and whatnot. When you
it was killing him.
Yeah, when you try to live the life that you actually want to live, things that you're willing to kind of challenge yourself, it's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
You get a greater sense of either happiness, achievement, whatever it is, having to do with that. It's just overall better.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with that.
Do you ever look in the mirror, Mark, and think, I'm turning into my Uncle Al?
How so?
Well, do you ever look in the mirror? No. Do you ever?
Well, that first
You get
and foremost,
mistaken
he's
for
like his
him.
Uncle Al because he probably doesn't look in the mirror either.
Not really.
You get mistaken for him. Do you ever have moments where you're like, whoa, that was so something Al would have said or done? Or
Yes and no. So, I mean, I have been mistaken for Al, or usually what happens is I show up to a job and someone's like, oh, hey, and then they kind of do a double take if they haven't really seen me before, and they're like, you're not Al, and I'm like, nope, I'm his nephew. But the reason why I say yes and no as far as things that I may say or do is simply because while they're things he may do, they're still what I like to believe inherently me. So unless it's something that I've seen him do and I know that solves this problem and I can do it that way, there are things that I do that he would have done in the same way.
I have something to say about that as well. Is I think while you and I have really similar characteristics, I think we are very different people.
Oh yeah.
We have very different interests, very on all levels, on everywhere. It's just when it comes to the pool industry and it comes to work, we bring very much a similar sauce, a very similar attitude toward that, and our approach to people and all of that. But outside of that, I think we kind of diverge, and we have like literally nothing that we have the same interest in.
It's not like some puppies and rainbows. Like we get along on absolutely everything.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he could care less about sports. I'll sit there on a Saturday and watch college football all day long. There's a lot of things that and you especially being the whole creative mind and how much you like to, you like to be able to create things, and whether I'm trying to think of different carvings, different things you innovate and create.
Trains, models.
For me, like that stuff's
weird
cool.
little hobbies.
I just want to make shit work. That's pretty much it. Like I just, from the technical end, just want to make sure. I like to analyze things. I'm overly analytical as far as that goes, but it's the only, I would say, I have a slight bit where I open up to the creative end just because I have to be able to innovate. But in general, my brain's all technical.
So we have a good working team, and there is a lot of family. Without getting like too drawn into it or too specific, any like advice or observations that you've come up with? I know working with some family, depending on who it is super easy, and then working with family sometimes can be challenging. Is there any kind of philosophy that you try to remember when things are good or when we might hit a little bit of a rough communication patch?
You want to take that one, or want me to take that one? I have a lot to say about that. I think first and foremost, if you're going to work with family because it's close, you need to understand personalities. You need to understand personality assessment and just know that people think differently than you. And a case in point for me, I think the most poignant moment where I realized I have to change my communication style or something bad is going to happen was my oldest daughter, Katie. We were working on a job where we had to park way down the long driveway and park on the road, and the driveway came up and then it was a steep hill down to the pool. And I had to leave, and I said, hey, bring the truck down here and load this stuff up. And to me was, bring the truck down here meant down the driveway. And she drove the truck down the driveway and backed it down this hill like this, that fortunately they had to push it out with a machine. But fortunately nothing worse could have happened. However, that truck could have easily slid all the way back down and flipped over into the lake behind.
The canal right there.
The canal was there. It could have fallen into the pool. She could have hurt herself. She may not have, because it was so steep, she may not have been able to slow down. And
it was a sloppy fall too.
It was all kinds of stuff all at the same time. And when I heard that, I was horrified, because here I said back the truck down, and I didn't know that I had to say back the truck down to a safe point on the driveway and then carry the stuff up the hill to the driveway. But all she heard was back the truck down. Well, that meant all the way down the driveway and all the way down this hill. And that's when I realized I couldn't be mad at her. As much as I wanted to be mad, like, what is the matter with you? Why did you do this? What were you thinking? I had to realize that's how she thinks. I have to communicate better so that she can understand what I'm talking about. And that was a big moment for me. Because, number one, I was full of fear. I was full of all kinds of anxieties and fears around what could have gone wrong for her. I don't care about the truck. I don't care about what if something got broken, but my concern was for her. And fortunately, there were some other guys there, and they used a skid steer and pushed her truck back up the hill. But so that was the big thing. And because I understand her personality, it wouldn't have mattered if it was my daughter or someone else. I would have treated it the same. However, the personality and understanding her style was different, and I needed to do that. Learn to communicate better. Also, beyond that, I think that we all are different learners. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us are, experiential learners. Some of us, we can just hear it once and know what we're doing. And that's something as well that I've been shocked and surprised over the years. And maybe if this was just general employees and it wasn't family, maybe I wouldn't be quite so sensitive to it and I wouldn't care so much. But I've come to realize how a word picture is not enough to describe how to do something. And if you were just some employee, somebody, and we didn't have any long-term connection, whether we worked together or not, maybe I wouldn't have been so affected by it. But I've been amazed at how many times things that appeared to be so simple to do couldn't get figured out because the words weren't